ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Aaron Bates on the stage.
I've been in the movie theater business most of my adult life. It started by accident, actually. My good friend Tim Sweeten, who's here tonight, actually, back in 1988, we decided, as we were at the Emery Theater over on Walnut Street, double feature of classic films. That theater was run by a volunteer organization, and at the end we helped pick up the trash. And as we were doing that, we had a conversation like, wouldn't it be funny to go work in a movie theater this summer? So we did, and we applied at the Tri-County Cinemas 1 through 5 in the Casanelli Square. Anybody remember that theater? It's now gone. And 25 years later, I'm still in this business. I don't pick up the cups anymore, but I'm still in the business. And if there's anything I know, it's that this industry is a hotbed for trouble and mischief. Both on the customer side and on the employer side. Part of the problem is that we're dealing with large volumes of people, and we stick them into small rooms with one another. So you're getting a lot of anger and mishmash of feelings. So you get like the angry drunks, you get the frisky couples, you get the teenagers who have embraced anarchy recently and they want to break everything. So you get all that, and as a worker, you get this feeling of wanting to push back, get a little revenge. And so we did that every now and then. Often I get asked, what is the strangest person you've encountered in your travels with all these people that come in and out of the doors? Sometimes I refer to the time that I went into the movie Three Kings, and there was a gentleman sitting very erect in his seat, holding his Milk Duds box in his hand, and he was very dead. I sometimes mention that story. Sometimes I also mention the time where it was a Monday night, slow night, customer comes out, says, we have a situation in the restroom you need to go deal with. And I'm like, what is it? And he says, you really need to go in the restroom. I said, okay. So I figure it's a Monday night, not much going on, there's only a few people in the theater, how bad can this be? So I go in the restroom and I'm pushing the stall doors open one by one, get to the last one, the bigger one, door opens up, and there is on the floor a partially inflated and recently used blow-up doll. So, needless to say, Monday nights were different to me after that. Anyway, so we have this public at large that we deal with on a big level, and this urge to push back, right? You got that part? Let's put that over there for a minute. I'll tell you what I did. I started out as an usher, sweeping up after you kind people, and then eventually I got promoted to the projection booth, which was like the place to be. One, you didn't really have to deal with the public, which was huge. The other part was you did feel like you kind of lorded over everybody. You're in charge, you start the movie, everything's in your control, at least in my mind, my 18-year-old mind. So sometimes my way of pushing back was I would spend a lot of time staring out the window to try to catch frisky couples and people that wanted to smuggle their entire dinner of Skyline into the theater. I would call down to the projection booth and let them know where, the exact coordinates of where they were, and then they'd swoop in, and then they would. I took a lot of pleasure in this. But the thing that was most interesting probably, and the thing I usually get asked about is, when we ran the film, and we live in a digital age, when we ran the film, you had some control and some power over what the audience was seeing. So I would take trailers, previews, and I would cut them into half-second, second-long sections, and then I would insert them into the feature film. random places that only I knew about. You might have got a little bit of that in Fight Club. I think they talked about that. That did happen. And so a good example was we had this movie Tango and Cash with Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. And if you had been there that week that I played that, and by the way, if you were there, you deserved this. I took an older trailer of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I took a small half-second, second-long section, and I stuck it into Tango Cash. And I knew where it was, so I went down to the theater and stood in the back, and then right when I knew it was going to happen, I would just, boom, it happened, and then I'd see all these people kind of go, did you see that? And again, I thought this was really exciting. I thought this was really pleasurable. So again, this idea of pushing back, right? Those were pranks. You know, little things. But the greatest prank that I ever pulled, I wasn't really directly responsible for, even though it was all put at my feet. And I'll explain that in a minute. But before I do, and this happened, by the way, on the Saturday afternoon in December of 1988. I will never forget it, and when you're done hearing this, you'll never forget it either. Before I go into that, though, I will explain briefly, how film worked. Because, again, we live in a digital age, especially younger people don't have a clue as to how this used to work. We actually had 2 projectors for each auditorium. So, projector 1, projector 2. Projector 1 was the first hour of the film. Projector 2 was the second hour of the film. As you got to the end of the first reel, there would be a manufactured dot that would flash on the screen. Anybody who grew up in the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s, you saw these dots on television sometimes. That dot was your signal that the end of the reel was happening. You had 8 seconds to get the second reel going, the second hour on projector 2. So you would have this one going down, you had 8 seconds before it ended, and then you would start the second projector, and it was threaded up so that it would actually go on screen in 8 seconds. If you did it just right, it was seamless, and you guys were like, oh, it's wonderful, but you know, back we were like, ah, this is great, I got that. We felt like magicians. So, bear all that in mind. And I should mention, too, that there was a backup device in case the projectionist was in the bathroom, or was trapped under something heavy. If they couldn't get there, there was a backup where you put a piece of silver tape on the bottom, or at the end of the last part of the reel, and it would turn the second projector on for you, but we were not supposed to do that. We were supposed to always be there and make sure it was in focus and in frame and so on. All right, so that's how it worked. Saturday afternoon, December of 1988. There was a movie called The Land Before Time. Remember this movie? It was like 12 sequels. Animated, dinosaurs, happy families. Now, one of the things we used to do, we still do it in this industry actually, kids' films obviously play better in the afternoon. So, after a movie's played for a little while, it'll stay, but only play in the afternoons. And then we put something else in that theater in the evening. So, Saturday afternoon. Now, we had this thing where we kept time and we were always making sure that we were upstairs for our changeover. And I'm shooting the breeze with the manager, and we're talking, and out of the corner of my eye, I see people pouring out of the auditorium of Land Before Time. And I think, oh, geez, the changeover, dang it. Run upstairs, running down the hall, and I go between the 2 projectors, and I look out of the port glass, and I don't see dinosaurs. I see a naked man, and I see a naked woman, and they are standing in what looks like hell, and there's a chain coming from this direction, and it's got a hook in it, and it's in the skin of the back of the guy, and there's a chain coming from over there, and it's in the, and they look like they're either enjoying or really not enjoying sex, I'm not sure. And it all comes, and this is all in seconds. I'm digesting this in seconds. And I realize what I've done. In the auditorium at night was a movie called Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And I had put up the second hour of that film and not Land Before Time. again, I digested all this instantly, and I hit stop, and I'm shaking, and I'm a 17, 18-year-old kid, I'm very upset. And I'm pulling down the reel, and I'm putting the right reel up, and as I'm threading it up, all I'm thinking about is over on the projection cork board, there is a newspaper clipping from the Enquirer that somebody had cut out from last summer, where somebody had done the exact same thing with Care Bears and Rambo 3. Same thing. And all I'm thinking is, this is so much worse than Rambo 3. This is naked people in hell having sex, and there are families down there. So I get the right thing going, and I go downstairs, and the manager's gotten everybody back into the auditorium. And he says, when this movie's over, you're gonna have to go in and apologize to everybody as they come out. Right? I'd rather die than do that. So, and you have to talk to the big boss when he comes in at 6 o'clock. So I'm thinking, I'm fired, I'm gonna get killed, everything is horrible. So the movie gets out, I go stand in the back of the auditorium, and I am just getting hammered by these people. They are convinced that I did this on purpose. You did this on purpose. You did this on purpose. I got that so often, I thought, is this like some kind of payback for Roger Rabbit? I didn't do this. Is this karma coming back on top of me? So I got, you're gonna get sued, I'm suing you, you know, my husband's gonna come back up here and kick your ass, and I got all of that. So, last guy comes up the aisle, and I'm wore out. And this guy's got his daughter on his shoulder, and she's asleep. And he kind of leans into me, and he says, I thought it was pretty funny. Take solace in that, because I still was like, I have to go face the big boss, and I'm gonna get sued, and some guy's apparently coming back to kick my ass. So I was very upset. 6 o'clock rolls around, I go into the office, and the manager says this. Here's the deal. If we get sued, you're fired. If this gets in the newspaper, or if this is on the news tonight on Channel 9, you're fired. If anything happens, essentially, you're fired. If nothing happens, you can keep your job. Miraculously, nothing happened. I mean, I'm standing here on the stage, I'm telling you, in 25 years, I've not even had a person come up to me and say that they remember that this happened. It's like it didn't happen. So, as much as that is kind of a relief, there's a part of me that still lives in fear of the scarred children that are out there right now. I've been quietly seeking some kind of Dexter-like revenge on me. So yeah, that was a scary time. Thank you.